You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at PACERadio.net. Cindy is away. She's out in BC. Glenn isn't available today. So I'm going alone, as you can see. And just so you know, happy Halloween. And stay tuned for a bit of a spooky video that I created on something else, but it just works out good for Halloween. And I'll run it just as I go into the break. So probably the next, 15, 20 minutes, somewhere around there. And I'll play it at that point. So, okay, other than that, I must just get right into the news. First story of the day comes to me from StratCan. The headline there says that Ontario affirms a $31 million commitment to take on the illicit cannabis market. So it says the Ontario government has affirmed that their plan to invest $31 million over the next 3 years to take on the illegal cannabis stores. As part of the Ontario's 2024 economic and fiscal outlook, in brief, the provincial government is committing to investing $31 million over the next 3 years to support the provincial joint forces, cannabis enforcement teams. They said this OPP-led centralized enforcement unit focuses on the cannabis file. I know at one point they called it the Project Long Arm. This investment, says the government, would enable the PJFCT to respond to the challenge of illegal online operators and crack down further on the production, sale, and distribution of illegal cannabis online and offline space. The new economic and fiscal outlook, in brief, is an affirmation of the promise's previous 2024 budget, which had referenced this $31 million. Earlier this year, the Toronto City Council passed a motion asking the province to undertake a comprehensive review of the Provincial Cannabis Control Act of 2017. The motion says a review is imperative to ensure the effective regulations and enforcement of cannabis-related matters in Ontario. Municipalities need more tools and resources to address the illegal cannabis business, the motion reads, including saying, exploring options to strengthen enforcement measures, increase penalties for non-compliance, and improve collaboration between municipalities and the provincial authorities. The illicit market in Ontario has been growing considerably in the past year, they say, and many retailers and other cannabis industry participants have been calling on the government to do more. That's the provincial government. For some estimates, several hundred new unlicensed retailers have been operating in different parts of Ontario in the past year, with close to 100 in Toronto alone. While some have faced enforcement, many have not, causing frustration for many licensed retailers. Now, the Toronto cannabis store owner, Paul McGovern, he's a former police officer of the Toronto Police Services who stepped down in 2018 to open Verti Cannabis. Now, he told StratCan earlier this year that he believes Ontario needs more of a province-wide approach to enforcement, similar to the approaches provinces like BC and New Brunswick have taken. Well, I know where that's going. McGovern also argues that public awareness is an issue. While store owners might follow this closely, because the general public, municipal, and policy lawmakers and the legal system in general might not. While some in the justice system might still think the landscape is similar to the wave of stores opening in the years before legalization, he says the arguments that might have held up in court but won't now. He says, I get the impression that maybe not everybody in the justice system is aware of what's going on. We're hyper-focused on this in our industry, but I don't think the same is true for the general public or for police agencies. That sounds like he's calling out his comrades. So part of the challenge is helping them understand how things are different today than they were, say, in 2016. Now, Raji Grover, CEO of High Tide, which operates more than 70 of his Canna Cabana retail cannabis locations in the province, he's welcomed the announcement of the budget. He says, as Canada's largest cannabis retail store with 72 stores, plus over 700 employees in Ontario, we at High Tide welcome the Ontario government FES commitment to help law enforcement crack down on illegal cannabis, promoting advertising. He wrote that, Grover wrote that in a tweet. He says, we look forward to seeing more details as they are released. Now, the Ontario portion of the federal cannabis tax, the excise duty, which is 75% of every dollar collected, is expected to be around $379 million in 2024. The provincial budget brought in $215 in 2021 and $310 million in 2023, and $344 are interim figures for this past year. Now, the Ontario Cannabis Store, they said they brought in $186 million. So there's lots of money flowing there. There's no doubt about that. So we'll see what goes on. We'll watch the news and see if they ramp things up, whether there's another Project Claudia round 2 on that. That was the big raids there just before legalization that went at a lot of the stores in Toronto. And I don't go to Toronto as often as I used to, so I don't. They say that there's over 100 illegal stores. It'd be interesting. They mentioned New Brunswick and British Columbia in that article, doing something similar. That's what that police officer, a former police officer, had mentioned, which is concerning. I'm sure it could be concerning to a lot of people. I know it's concerning to myself. And because I know in BC, they don't recognize the treaty or recognize the sovereignty of the Indigenous community. They've raised stores out there. I know myself, I'm right in the middle, within an hour of each direction, east or west where I go. There is a reserve with lots of cannabis stores on them. Between the two locations, I'd say there's got to be at least 100 stores somewhere in that area. So it'll be interesting to see if Ontario is going to crack down on them with this $31 million that they plan on spending. So we'll just see what happens. All right, on to the next story. This comes to me from MJ Biz Daily, and it says, New York City's illicit marijuana crackdown is unconstitutional, a judge says. So interesting. See how these stories sort of combined. The new law enforcement crackdown on illicit New York City cannabis shops that state regulators have credited with salvaging the legal market is unconstitutional. A Queens judge has ruled. Wow. A judge, according to the Associated Press, Mayor Eric Adams said the city will appeal the ruling, which jeopardizes the Operation Padlock to protect. The crackdown effort launched in May after state lawmakers granted law enforcement new powers, including the ability to literally chain the doors of the estimated 7,000 corner stores, bodegas, I don't know what that is, and other outlets selling cannabis in New York City. Operation Padlock has closed as many as 1,200 merchants suspected of selling cannabis without the required state licenses. Now, affected merchants were allowed to appeal to have their doors reopened via a later hearing, a process that almost immediately drew legal challenges, in part because the New York City Sheriff's Office could overrule the decision made by a hearing officer and unilaterally declare a store closed. Now, according to court records, that's what's happened in the case brought by a Queens smoke shop shut down by the sheriff's officers. In that instance, the sheriff's office padlocked ASA 456 Corporation at 4703 Francis Lewis Boulevard in the Queens after discovering what they determined to be illicit cannabis products during an inspection conducted while the store was closed for business. How did they get into the store? The store was closed for business. Now, the sheriff also overruled a hearing officer's recommendation to reopen the store, instead declaring it remained shuttered for 1 year. So he found him guilty and offers the sentence. The decision to continue the sealing order here was arbitrary and capricious. Judge Kevin Kerrigan of Queens County Supreme Court ruled Tuesday, now according to the records. Not only did the sheriff fail to provide rational basis on his final determination here, but the office's ability to overrule the hearings officer's decision also renders the hearing process a theoretically useless function or even a potential farce, according to the judge. Kerrigan's declared the section of law that allowed the hearing officer to offer only a recommendation on the sealing order instead of a binding ruling, and that allowing the sheriff to similarly disregard the hearing officer's recommendation unconstitutionally under the 14th Amendment as violation of the due process clause. As a result, the sheriff must remove the seal and open the premises forthright. Yeah. Wow. The ruling bodies ill for the continued health of New York's legal New York marijuana market with regulators said in September is on pace to extend $1 billion in legal sales. Now, a statement by Gothamist Liz Garcia, spokesman for the mayor, said authorities would continue to padlock illicit storefronts and protect communities from the health and safety dangers posed by the illegal operators. Now, Lance Lazaro, his attorney who filed the appeal on this ASA 456 Corporation's behalf, told the Gothamist that the ruling might expose the city to a flood of lawsuits from other merchants shut down during the operation to padlock. So it sounds like to me that this story is going to continue for some time. Especially if it goes the way that it mentions there at the end, and other lawsuits kick in. So, all righty, on to my next story, and this one here comes to me from Medical Express, and the headline on that one says, psilocybin shows promise as new treatment for OCD and Tourette's syndrome of study finds. I always like these studies. It shows some benefits. A study published in Molecular Psychiatry, led by Professor Bernard Lehrer from the Department of Psychiatry at the Hadash Hebrew University Medical Center, shows promising results for using psilocybin as a potential treatment for OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, and Tourette's syndrome. The paper is titled Striking Long-Term Beneficial Effects of Single-Dose Psilocybin and Psychedelic Mushroom Extracts in the SAPAP3 rodent model of OCD-like excessive self-grooming. Now, the research provides significant insights into the benefits of psilocybin for managing symptoms similar to those experienced by people with OCD and Tourette's. The study included 50 genetically modified mice that displayed excessive grooming and anxiety, similar to human OCD behaviors, and head body twitches, similar to tics suffered by patients with Tourette syndrome. Now, these mice were randomly given either a single injection of psilocybin or a placebo, and obviously the mice wouldn't know any difference. Now, raters, unaware of which treatment each mouse received, okay, I see how that works, evaluated the effects of several points over the 3-week period. Now, mice treated with psilocybin showed a 14.6% decrease in excessive grooming, while those receiving the mushroom extract saw a 19.2% reduction compared to a significant increase of 118% in grooming in the placebo group. Now, the study also observed reductions in other symptoms like tick-like movements and anxiety, with the mushroom's extract showing greater benefit in its effect on anxiety. Additionally, the positive effects from the single treatment lasted up to 7 weeks in some mice. Wow, 7 weeks. Understanding that over 40% of OCD patients don't find relief with current treatments, our findings are crucial as they suggest a new way to help these individuals, according to Professor Lear. He goes on to say that we look forward to advancing to human trials and further exploring how these treatments can provide long-term benefits. The effects observed on tick-like head and body twitches raised the previously unreported possibility that psilocybin may be effective in patients with Tourette syndrome. This research highlights the potential of psilocybin and similar substances with treating psychedelic conditions and supports the ongoing efforts to discover new effective mental health therapies. Here, exactly. So it's good. And they always use the mice, and it's got to do with some similarities to humans. So, and I was on a medication because of my Crohn's disease that was actually based on mouse genes, or it was part of the stuff that helped create it. So it was a little weird. I didn't start liking, abundance of cheese or anything like that, if anybody is wondering. So, but other than that, I think it's time for me to take a break. I'm halfway through the stories I got picked up here and just flying through things. So off to medication time. I'm going to got my pen right here. And other than that, I'll be right back in about 4 minutes, because I'm going to play that little video that I mentioned at the very beginning of the broadcast. I'm going to play that, and then we'll go into the news. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at PACEradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have 2 lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or PACEradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at PACEradio.net. Hey, and I'm back with more of your psychedelics and cannabis educational news. And let's get right into the video. What'd you think? Hey, those were masks, glass masks that were created by, obviously, glass blowers, and they were all functional. During the expo, I remember talking to the guys that were there, and they said that they all worked. Some of them were really, really creepy, and I don't know what they cost, but I could just imagine the kind of money that you'd have to fork out to get something like that. And would you want to use it? But yeah, it was quite the setup that they had that year. All right, on to the next story that we go here of the day. This is something that I believe that was a concern with a lot of cannabis patients that I know, and looks like somebody's doing something about it. Maybe. There we go. According to The Guardian, drivers to escape punishment over medical cannabis under interim Victorian proposal. So drivers who use medical cannabis in Victoria will be able to remain behind the wheel under a proposed interim measure being considered by the state government. Now, I know that I had people who called me when we first legalized cannabis, and they were patients, and they were worried because of their daily use of cannabis that they would get busted for impaired driving. And they had, people had discussed this at other times and thought, well, is there any way that we could be exempt from the driving laws? But it says here in this in Victoria, which I believe is over in England somewhere, Great Britain somewhere, that they're going to allow maybe people to drive. So I'll continue on. In an expert report tabled in Parliament on Wednesday, the former magistrate Tony Parsons called on the government to provide the courts with judicial discretion not to cancel the licenses for medical cannabis users. He said the interim proposal would act as a bridge between the present legislation and findings of a government-funded trial into the impacts of medical cannabis on driving, which is not expected until 2026. The $4.9 million trial, which is being conducted by Swinburne University, will review about 70 medical cannabis users' ability to manage distractions and assess their performance behind the wheel, including steering, braking, and speed control on a dedicated track. But in the interim, it continues to be an offense for a person to drive with any trace of THC in their system. It means medical cannabis users can risk losing their license or being fined each time they drive to work or drop their children off at school. Now, Parsons, the former head of the Magistrates Drug Court Division, described the legal framework as grossly discriminatory and manifestly unfair. He goes on to say that Victorians with valid doctor's prescriptions for medical cannabis who take their medication as instructed are sanctioned for taking their medicine if they return a positive roadside test, even in the absence of any evidence of impairment. Exactly. He wrote this in a report commissioned by the legalized cannabis MP David Edershack. He goes on to say that they have committed a criminal offense by virtue of the drug's presence in their system alone. Now, Parsons says the consequences could be crushing. He mentions that loss of driver's license often results in loss of livelihood, and always means financial penalties, a lifetime criminal record, barriers to future employment, and the stigma of appearing in court. He says there were hundreds of other prescription drugs that have the same or greater capacity to impair driving performance, such as benzos, opiates, antihistamines, and antidepressants that are not treated the same way. Exactly. We've been saying this for years. Parsons said several of the experts he consulted said they were aware of patients who had refused to take their prescribed cannabis because of the risks involved. Often, they changed to other medications, such as opiates or benzodiazepines, both of which have greater potential to impair driving as well as the potential for drug dependency, but neither will trigger a prosecution just because they are present in a motorist's body. This is what he's written in the report. It goes on to say, and then it goes, under the interim measure, courts would have the discretion to consider on a case-by-case basis whether there was any evidence that the person's driving was impaired, whether they were taking the medical cannabis as prescribed, or whether they had a history of unacceptable driving or other behavior. Presenting a positive test for THC while driving would remain an offense, and other penalties such as fines would remain. Now, Parsons said he consulted with several government, legal, and medical authorities who all supported the discriminatory approach. This included the Police Association head Wayne Gatt, through the Victoria Police Commissioner Shane Patton. He declined to participate. Now, a government spokesperson thanked Parsons and the legalized cannabis party for its advocacy, saying that we're working with researchers from Swinburne University to see whether people can drive with any level of medical cannabis without compromising road safety. So there you go. That's been a discussion. It has been years ago, right here, with a lot of patients right here in Canada over the years, because of the fact that we are taking our prescribed medication and being punished for that. And I know a guy who was prescribed lots of opiates for his condition, and yet his job was driving. So And because he was taking a prescription that was illegal, medication for everybody to take, I guess they allowed him to continue on driving. But patients had to always be in fear. Ride programs, anything. Just the smell on their hands from smoking a joint, hours before. And this, wouldn't be fair. It's not fair. All it does, like the test really is, we've said this many times before, what it does is show consumption. It doesn't show impairment yet. They can show that you've had some cannabis recently, but it doesn't show what your level of impairment is. So, if you're even impaired, and a lot of patients aren't. So, good to them, and hopefully they get that out. And when it does come out and I see it, I'll make sure it makes part of the news. All right, on to my next story. This one comes to me from the Marijuana Moment. Headline says DEA begins selecting witnesses for marijuana rescheduling hearing, inviting industry stakeholders and prohibitionists to testify. All right, the DEA has started selecting witnesses to participate in a much anticipated hearing on the Biden administration's proposal to federally reschedule cannabis that's scheduled for December. Marijuana Moment has learned. Now, this comes after about 7 months after the Justice Department formally proposed moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act following a scientific review. After a public comment period, which saw tens of thousands of people weigh in on the issue. A hearing was set for December 2nd to gather additional expert input. With just over a month until that hearing, several witnesses have now been notified about their selection by DEA. They include at least one top cannabis industry organization, a drug testing association, and 2 prohibitionist groups. Now, the industry, I didn't see anything listed in there about, cannabis advocacy, the industry organizations, I guess. Now, the National Cannabis Industry Association is among those that received a notice from the DEA this week that the request to participate in the hearing has been granted. A source familiar with the administrative proceedings says that any cannabis group's smart approaches to marijuana, which is SAM, I hear about them all the time, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, and the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association have also received notices granting their requests. They say that this is in response to their request to the DEA for a hearing or to participate regarding the notice of proposed rulemaking to transfer cannabis from Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act to Schedule 3 of the CSA. Now, this DEA Administrator Ann Milligan said, according to an email that was sent out to Marijuana Moment. It says, upon review, DEA grants your request. The hearing will be conducted pursuant to provisions of 5 U.S.C. 556 and 557 and 21 CFR 1308-41, and there's a bunch more numbers there. Further information regarding the hearing and your participation will be provided by the administrative law judge designated to preside over the hearing. Now, Aaron Smith, executive director of the NCIA, told Marijuana Moment on Tuesday that we look forward to making sure that the independent small businesses that make up the heart of the cannabis industry have a seat at the table at this hearing, and we're proud to be able to participate. Cannabis obviously doesn't belong in Schedule 1, given the enormous evidence of medical efficacy and lower potential for abuse, and moving this out of control of the Controlled Substances Act is the right long-term move. Exactly. And a lot of people say, just get it out of the act. Don't go to Schedule 3. Just get it out of the act. Now, he goes on to say that, but in the short term, taking up the government's recommendation to move it to Schedule 3 makes great sense for the country, for the industry, but also needs to come with some guidance to federal agencies to ensure that the state licensed businesses can continue to operate under the state programs without federal interference. Now, the only problem I got with taking a two-step where you just go to Schedule 3 and then you remove it down the road from the CSA. The problem is when? How long? How long has it been now that it's been in Schedule 1? Really long time. So if it's going to go into Schedule 3, it's not just going to go there for a month or two. It's not going to go there for a year or two. It's going to go there for much longer. So just make the jump right over into removing it from the CSA as far as I'm concerned. Now, Marijuana Moment reached out to the DEA for clarification on the complete list of witnesses who were invited, but a representative was not able to immediately comment. It's not clear how many witnesses DEA selected of the many who submitted requests ahead of the hearing, nor is it apparent whether the agency plans to continue granting requests on a rolling basis in the coming weeks. Now, representatives of major pro-cannabis organizations such as NORML and the Marijuana Policy Project said they have not yet received a response on their request to participate of a Tuesday afternoon. Now, these are the groups that I was mentioning earlier about the advocacy in the groups. We've got the industry group there. Let's get the advocacy group that's representing just the people on the ground, and that's NORML and Marijuana Policy Project. They'd be good at that. So, well, some advocates and stakeholders had hoped the DEA would avoid the additional step of holding an administrative hearing and simply move to final rulemaking. The agency has often scheduled hearings for regulatory proposals of major public interest, and rescheduling cannabis for the first time since it was designated as Schedule 1 over 50 years ago met that standard. So there you go, folks. Just like I said, it took 50 years for them to go from 1 to 3. Go to 3 first, and then go to remove from the CSA. It could be another 50 years, and nobody wants to wait another 50 years. So just jump right into that right off the bat, folks. It doesn't make sense. That said, the hearing has added some uncertainty about the potential rescheduling timeline. There are some concerns that December's hearing means that the rulemaking process will not be completed before January, which could mean an administrative change-up after the November election that theoretically could affect the rescheduling process. Now, DEA has already made clear that it feels additional information is needed on a number of topics related to the scientific review into cannabis that led to the reclassification recommendations. Some view the scheduling of the hearing as more evidence of DEA skepticism. For what it's worth, Vice President Kamala Harris, she's the Democrat president nominee, says that part of the reason for the delay in the administrative cannabis rescheduling effort is federal bureaucracy that slows things down, including at the DEA. And in March, Harris also expressed some frustration with the bureaucratic process of rescheduling cannabis prior to the DOJ's formal recommendation, calling on the DEA to expediently finish the job. And while the Biden-Harris administration facilitated the review that led to the DOJ rescheduling proposal, former President Donald Trump, who is the GOP presidential nominee, has also voiced support for the reform. And in a historic first for the U.S., both he and Harris have aligned with their support of cannabis legalization. So there you go. Witnesses are being called. Things are moving. It'll be slow, as mentioned in the article, but it started. And let's hope that those advocacy groups, those grassroots advocacy groups, get a spot at the table and be able to speak. We shouldn't be shut out for something as big as that. As I said, 50 years since the last time it was rescheduled. They should try to get as much information in there as possible. They only listed those 4 witnesses. There's got to be more than that. As they said, they requested the full list, but they didn't receive one. So hopefully a full list does come out, and if it does, I'll make sure that we get it in the news. All right, on to my last story of the day, and this one comes to me from the Cannabis Health News .co.uk website, and it says dramatic drop in cannabis use among U.S. teens, finds a study. Yeah, they all say, "Oh, don't legalize. It's going to go up. It's going to go up." Teen use. Yeah. They say that the study, new findings have identified a significant decline in the percentage of U.S. adolescents reporting current cannabis use over the last decade. The study was published in the journal Pediatric Reports, reveals that in 2011, 23.1% of adolescents indicated that they were current users, but by 2021, that figure had dropped to 15.8%. Additionally, the percentage of adolescents trying cannabis for the first time before age 13 also saw a noticeable decline from 8.1% in 2011 to 4.9% in 2021. Researchers from the Florida Atlantic University Schmidt College of Medicine conducted a comprehensive study using data from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey between 2011 and 2021, where surveyed 88,183 adolescents in grades 9 through 12. Now, in 2021, cannabis use was most prevalent among 12th graders at 22.4%, followed by 11th graders at 18%, with lower usage rates in the earlier grades. Now, from 2011 to 2021, all grades experienced a notable decline in current cannabis use, especially among 9th graders. While there was an overall downward trend over the years, there were slight increases in use in 2013 and again in 2019. Now, Panagiotis Santos, who has a PhD, corresponding author and professor and chair of the Department of Population Health and Social Medicine, FAU Schmidt College of Medicine, commented, "Wow, that's a great title. While we observed an overall decline in 2011 and 2021 across all grades, older students consistently reported higher usage, particularly at 12th graders." I'm not surprised there. This suggests that as adolescents advance through high school, they may have greater access to cannabis, influenced by more developed peer networks and increased independence. This trend highlights the need for targeted interventions aimed at older adults who are at greater risk of regular cannabis use. Now, the research team focused on the overall time trends in use of cannabis, as well as variations of gender, race, ethnicity, and school grade. Now, in 2021, girls reported a higher prevalence of current cannabis use at 17.8% than boys that were at 13.6%. Wow. This marks a significant change from 2011, when boys were more likely to use cannabis at 26% compared to the girls at 20%. According to the authors, the convergence of usage rates among genders highlight evolving dynamic that could reflect broader society changes in attitudes towards cannabis. Researchers also found variations among Asian, Hispanic, and white adolescents who experienced some of the steepest declines in current use. In 2021, however, Black adolescents reported a notable higher percentage of current cannabis use at 20.5%, compared to their white at 14%, Hispanic at 16.7%, and an Asian at 14.1% as its counterparts. In the U.S., according to the co-author of the study, Charles Hennikins, he says, in the U.S., the current landscape of cannabis legalization in adults adds a complex layer to the issues of adolescent cannabis use. Why? As more states continue to legalize recreational cannabis, the accessibility and perceived normalcy of the drug may increase, particularly for adolescents who view its legal status as an indication of safety or acceptability. Research suggests that cannabis legalization in adults can influence adolescent behavior through their perceptions of less risk as increased availability, both of which may impede effects or reduce cannabis or adolescent use. However, the study funded by the National Institute of Drug Abuse in 2020 found that legalizing cannabis for adult use did not lead to an increase in consumption among adolescents. It's just people just think, as the other fellow said, it's legal. People get thinking, okay, It's not harmful. It's legal for mom and dad. I can try it, but the study says this isn't happening. So now the authors emphasize the importance of interventions like parental communication, supervision, and modeling alongside school offering effective health education and fostering a positive school climate to sustain the decline in adult cannabis use. And talk to your kids and tell them. I know I eventually had to have the talk, and things change as they understand what's going on. There's no doubt about that, at least in my situation. So, all righty. Other than that, I'm all done with my news stories for today. Just ran the 6 stories, but other than that, our next broadcast is Monday at 10 a.m. and you'll be able to catch the news again. It'll be me. Cindy's at West, and I'll check with Glenn, see if he's available to fill in for Cindy. If not, it'll just be me. Who knows? Maybe I'll do some experimenting when these guys are gone. So, all right. Other than that, that's P.A.C.E News Report for today. From our friends at legacy420.com for Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, as well as not legacy420.com. I mentioned them. Limestone, Hydroponics.ca, and At-Eze.ca. Thanks for everybody. And in closing, I'd like to say thanks, and don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACERadio.net.